came here in 2008. Now, when you moved into the seat as the Nigerian High Commissioner to Canada, what was on your mind? You probably came with a vision.
When I arrived here in Canada, I was aware of the awesome responsibility of being chosen from among a country of 160 million people to be one of the ways through which my country's foreign policy was going to be articulated and presented. And I do know that a country's foreign policy is the best way through which the country wishes to be seen in the international community. And therefore, I knew from the onset that I had to be the best product that my country could send to Canada. I was also aware of my charter, my mission's charter, which was to come and to bring the strongest relationship between Canada and Nigeria. There was no question that relations were not in its premium stage, and this was because of historical reasons, driving back through the military years, how Canada became the one country that stood out to hold Nigeria accountable and led the motion for the suspension of my country, Nigeria, from the Commonwealth. So I was aware of this. Now the differences were that as every country's foreign policy is often also determined by its domestic policy, activities within Nigeria, government policies, and what was happening in Nigeria at any given time would determine how Nigeria was perceived by the international community, especially here in Canada, where this country prides itself on values, and freedom. So people became quite critical. My few weeks in the office here, I was amazed that Canadian students in elementary schools are so aware of happenings taking place in Nigerian villages. And often I would receive letters from them complaining about human rights abuse, complaining about different kind of things in Nigeria. Now, it became clear that there was a need, first and foremost, to employ cultural diplomacy, to bring people together, to come to an understanding of themselves, which could best be done in culture. And we employed that successfully. But we continued to explain Nigeria, to present Nigeria, to become a major advocate for Nigeria. And one of the challenges here again was we had a very robust Nigerian diaspora community, but they were not united. People aggregated on their ethnic groups or their village groups or their states groups, but there were no groups of people speaking for the whole of Nigeria. So we set out to meticulously advance the need to have pan-Nigerian groups across Canada. And I was lucky. I was lucky because the quality of Nigerians in Canada is very high value. These are professionals, most of them. And they don't want to waste their time if anything is going to really be a distraction. But the more we're able to reach out to them, the closer they came to one another, and they formed pan-Nigerian organizations. And today, I am proud that they can stand up as a group to advance the cause for Nigeria. But at the same time, they are here also to hold Nigeria accountable. Like Nigeria, Canada also allows a citizen to have dual nationality. And Canada particularly is very happy if you are a Canadian and also you have another nationality. And I found this really quite revealing and also very helpful, because the Nigerians here who were not proud about their Nigerianness were now being encouraged by us to come out proudly and be Nigerians in Canada, and thereby enhance Canadianness, multiculturalness, and diversity in Canada. So these challenges, as soon as, and I say God has been really merciful and kind and showed us channels through which bridges now became forged, and Canadians and Nigerians started understanding that in a world that was changing rapidly and changing radically, and Nigeria and Canada nonetheless also following suit, this rapidity started manifesting in the growth of trade. When I came here, trade between Nigeria and Canada was in the hundreds of millions. Today, we have exceeded the 2 billion mark, and the trade volume is growing close to 3 billion. And within a short period of about 4 years, I think this has been a major source of actually measuring what has happened in terms of the way in which this mission has operated. There is rapid growth among the business community in Nigeria, exchanging visits, having contacts, radically becoming involved, in spite of the challenges we have in Nigeria, and they are not small challenges.
In the area of education and commerce, I noticed that the Nigerian High Commission has done very well in building very good bilateral relations between Nigeria and Canada in this field. What are some of the things you did to achieve these results?
There is nothing like an idea whose time has come. Canada has demonstrated that they have one of the best educational systems in the world. They have also demonstrated that this society is stable. During the global financial collapse, Canada was the only country in the West that could stand up with a firm and strong economy. Today, the Canadian dollar is much stronger than the US. So it's a sign of the strength of the Canadian economy. Canada is a destination for progress. And Canada is also a country that has a very stable democracy of over 135 years, parliamentary democracy, and more significantly, Canada has welfare for its people, concerns with education and health and environment. There is no single slum in this country. The citizens are taken care of, and the government is held accountable and responsible, and in return, the citizens willingly pay taxes that support the government and therefore ensure that democracy becomes sustainable, because they feel that they are part and parcel of the democratic process. So somehow, as Nigerians got to know that they will benefit by coming to Canadian institutions, and we're no longer having the kind of rejections of visas, which I would call, previously from the Canadian immigration officers in the High Commissions, which we took these issues up over and over again. And that is why we have so many students here. And I'm so delighted. The young Nigerian students that have come here have always excelled when they set their mind to it. And I have school presidents and vice chancellors coming here to thank me and to show me testimonials of the progress that Nigerian students are making in their universities.
if you're looking at Nigeria, what would you tell the ordinary man in Nigeria about the Binational Commission and how important this commission will be to both countries?
It is a major landmark in the relationship between Nigeria and Canada. And why it is so critical is that all the achievements in the past have been individual institutions and individual regions. We will now have a national directive on having Nigeria and Canada look at education and how they are going to make it more effective between the two countries, on health, on security, on food security. And it's something that I have looked forward to, and now that it is realizable, I am happy to say that I can go back to Nigeria a happy person.
Over the years, covering events in Nigeria and watching one government move to the other, most times people build on structures. They make sure that they have a firm foundation, there's a very good structure on ground. But when the successor comes in, they somersault some of these policies and structures that are on ground, and then they start all over again. Now you have been able to lay a firm foundation on ground, and someone is coming to take over as the next ambassador. What kind of advice would you give the incoming ambassador?
You're asking actually to see my hand in over notes. Well, actually, Nigeria is a very rich country, not just rich in money, but in human resources. Now, before I came here, there was an ambassador, and he did his best. He advanced Nigeria's foreign policy. But every period and time has its own challenges. I came here not as a career ambassador, and I saw things a little bit differently, but also because I had my own training and I was bringing a different perception, maybe in aspects of cultural diplomacy, and my experience as a politician and as an academic and as a poet and as a playwright and as somebody who was massively involved with the people. We're coming here with a policy of citizenship diplomacy. So we had three major roles that we played: citizen diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and economic diplomacy. Now, on this tripod, I believe that my successor will go to higher heights. He's not starting at a level of stagnation because of historical animosities or an inheritance of a certain timidity by the people themselves. When I came here, I kept using the imagery of a courtship between one country and the other. And my imagery was of Nigeria being the suitor and Canada being a young, beautiful maiden who was being courted. But there's an older man to the south, and this strange African, strong, virile young man that wants her too. So my successor will inherit a consummation of this beautiful marriage. He will preside over it. It took a hard time for me to actualize the courtship process, but it's over. And I believe that Nigeria will bring the correct person to come and preside over this marriage. I have no doubt my country is capable, and the president will send a man befitting the status of Canada.